Hi Mohit,
Hi Anurag, good morning.
morning. So good to see you again. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So how are things over there now? All okay now in the
Things
pen?
on it's a burning area. Keeps on like things keep on happening here.
Hmm.
So till like few weeks back, we had some tribal protests happening over here also. Not on the same lines of farmer protests, but something on different lines. But then the kind of protests were same, like quite prolonged and all. So
Hmm.
and then this is an insurgency prone area, so a lot of incidents keep on happening here and there.
Right. I
Otherwise it's
guess yeah, that's a constant series of activities happening over that. Something or the other to take care of always.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess congratulations on the Young Alumni Achievers Award. But I guess
Thank you
double
so much.
congratulations are in order for you. You recently just got married. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And so, how was the experience of getting all the arrangements done, getting married in the with all the restrictions in place?
It frankly was quite hectic, mainly because I belong from Delhi and my better half is from Bangalore. So we initially planned a function in Delhi, but then suddenly, just before the function was supposed to happen, the COVID restrictions again came into place, and then there was a restriction of maximum 50 gathering, and because of again resurge after Diwali. So we had to cancel the like entire arrangement of Delhi. Then we booked again in Bangalore. Again there we had to keep a smaller function. It was very hectic, but then it was in some way it was good also. We saved a lot of money because you know how the big Indian fat Indian weddings
Yeah,
happen, and so the parents also did not have any other option uh, other than to minimize the function spread and all. So it was good in certain sense
good, good. So
and
I mean,
something good in that COVID year.
yeah, and this recognition coming around the same time, it's a good sign, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what does this recognition mean to you, and how would you say the 2 years at IMA have shaped you as a person?
See, IMA was a very life changing experience for me when I recall my days. Primarily because that was the first time I actually went out of my comfort zone. So I did my schooling and engineering all from Delhi only. I'm a graduate from NSIT Delhi, and I stay in Dwarka, so it was like about 3 kilometers from my home. So I never felt like I was going to some place outside my comfort zone. IMA like was a different territory altogether. Plus the kind of diversity I had in my uh, batch, and I think in every batch that is there, the kind of people from all walks of life you meet, the kind of humility I got to see in some of the best talents from the country. Like you, when you talk to them, you don't even realize, and it's a different aura altogether when you study with them, when you work with them, when you do projects with them, when there are fun moments. So it was a very life changing experience for me. Leadership wise, also, that was the first time I ever tried my hand at student body elections. I was mess secretary in my tenure. So it was a very good experience for me, I would say. And it certainly, to some extent, shaped the path which I later on took of joining the civil services.
So, was public service something that you were always drawn to, because of which, even after you joined IMA, maybe because of which corporate dreams gave way to the government service? Or was there, in your mind, there was a particular experience or thought that influenced this transition?
Yeah. So the inspiration for joining civil services I drew from my father. He worked with Delhi government, and he used to like inspire and encourage me to like look at it also as a prospective career because of the kind of scope of impact on the larger society that civil services and public services in India has. But that time I still wanted to complete my studies, so I opted for IM. I enrolled in IM, and then I joined. later to see how, and we interacted with many senior bureaucrats during that course in the second year of IIMA. Other than that, also the kind of perspective that we built about how private sector and public sector are entrenched. At that time, PPP was a buzzword. So these things about like how government doesn't need to work alone, how private sector doesn't need to work alone, how there is a synergy possible, it attracted. And then a lot of projects I used to do it. So I did a course of energy management, and we used to work with the municipal corporation of Ahmedabad. It opened a lot of doors for me. It gave a certain exposure, and then we had an interaction with foreign exchange students, and how different things work in their countries, how things can be improved in our own side. So certainly that. So in between there was that period when I joined IMA that I might not opt for public service initially when I got but then during
So you've spent pretty much most of your time in the left-wing extremism hub, districts of the country. Um, while the influence of left-wing extremism has been on the decline lately, and thanks to champions like you, why does it continue to be one of the most serious internal security challenges that the country faces? And can you shed some more light on some of the facets of the problem that we could do with a better understanding of?
surely. So when we talk about left wing when, and especially in pockets like Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Telangana, and certain parts of Andhra Pradesh, it's more about how a people. So it started with certain ideology that certain landlordships are like taking control over the entire land, and people are becoming bonded labor, and they are not, their rights are not getting entertained, and they are not able to live up to their potential. But slowly over the years, it drifted into more of violence, more of like petty fights, and then attacking on the government, attacking on the constitution of India. Then it also became a means of earning money, illicit money through multiple sources, mostly contractors. So uh, this problem affects a major part of population of these areas. Though population as such in terms of sheer numbers is much lesser, because the tribal areas are very scarcely populated. Like for instance, I'm currently in district Narayanpur in Chhattisgarh. The area is 7,000 square kilometers, but the population is only 1.5 lakhs. So it's like one of the lowest population densities in the country or in the world also. But then these 1.5 lakh people, almost like out of 1.5, almost more than a lakh people are still in the garb of fear, uncertainty, insecurity because of nothing. And that applies to entire Bastar and multiple other pockets of the country. This is why this has become such a serious problem. Secondly, so there is a dichotomy. So on one hand, if you see the press releases or the political wing of insurgents, that they want equality, they want government to work for the benefit of tribals and villagers. On the second hand, on the same organization, they do not let development make inroads. So for instance, they would destroy the roads, they would destroy hospitals, schools, and all the basic infrastructure, water, electricity, mobile towers. So it it has diverted. It has become more of a goonism in the current scenario than what it used to be. So you will find a lot of popular support for left wing ideology, even in IMA, even in most of the educational institutes. Even when we used to be students, we used to have that support that yes, there should be equality, that utopian world should be there. We should always aim for like equality and equal distribution of wealth and equal distribution of public service, equal access for everyone. But how it has been manifested over the years, it is pure violence only for the sake of money and The most sad part is the people who are uh, being made a party to it, like the villagers and the tribals, they are left with no choice. So since they do not have currently, they do not have access to the mainstream government, they are left to the mercy of these armed goons, and that is why this problem has such serious repercussions, and that is why this work has become so important for the government also, for the people also.
Mm. And it's a, like you rightly mentioned, it's a holistic problem. There are so many facets to it. And I think that's why the government has formulated the national policy and action plan, adopting a multi-pronged strategy in the areas of security, development, ensuring rights and entitlement of local communities. So all that is, good on paper, but how difficult is it in the implementation and execution?
It frankly is quite difficult. So I'll tell you very simple example how it works. So for instance, let's say there is a village A, which is let's say 20 kilometers from district headquarters. Currently, there is no road, there is no school, there is no hospital, there is no PHC there. There are settlements of, let's say there are 7 8 villages which are which are all in the same panchayat, and there is a population of roughly 500 to 1,000 living in that area. So these people are currently living under the threat of Naxals. So Naxals freely move with their, or insurgents freely move with guns, without guns, and they run their diktat over there. They would take money from their levy money from every house, levy and their produce or so they be there running water building a relationship. Slowly the villagers also start trusting. Initially it doesn't happen in a day or two that suddenly out of nowhere a policeman comes and the villager would start trusting them and would come out of the fear of Naxal, because we would be going infrequently. Armed insurgents would be frequenting there, and they would always be under the danger of, and they kill mercilessly. They'll burn people alive, tying them to the trees. They'll kill them with hatchets. They'll stone them to death in front of public. They call them guerrilla courts so that their fear maintains. So it's difficult for any villager, howsoever intelligent, howsoever eager to join government or development they might be, but that fear of life is always there. So that when security forces initially fly into these areas, they try to give them that confidence. We give them that route to reach government and the administration, and then slowly the other facilities start getting security cover and they start getting built. So slowly, infrastructure, basic infrastructure starts getting developed, and then as the infrastructure gets in place, then the service providers come. For instance, teachers would go, ambulances would start working, the Mehtari Express, which is there for pregnant women, they would start applying in these areas. So slowly these facilities start coming in. Then uh, eventually we will have schools also, hospitals also, mobile towers also. So now if you go and venture into that earlier village which was 20-kilometer unconnected, now when it's connected, now people are safe. Now they are connected to the government, they are doing government jobs, they are doing their own, they have their own self employment. So things are changing, but yes, it does take a lot of time. There are many implementation issues also. Not every agency is capable. There are policy issues also at certain level, but things are working at their own slow but sweet pace.
Mm. And these are obviously formidable challenges, and these are very, very difficult to deal with. And but despite all of this, some of your achievements are quite striking. right? Like achievement appreciated by Election Commission of India for ensuring free, fair, and peaceful elections with highest ever voter turnout despite the threats. And you received the national award in 2018 from President of India for security management during elections, right? And I realize I'm leaving some of the other achievements out of this list because I want to ask you that as a separate question. But what is your what's your success mantra? How are you able to, how do you manage to make those changes or make those achieve those things the way you are able to do now?
Uh, Elections was definitely a challenge. I was posted in district Bijapur that time, and district Bijapur is the second most affected district of the country in terms of left wing insurgency. And there were lot of instances. Uh, it's like more than 15,000 security forces are deployed in that single district. It's very very adversely affected. In election days, Naxalites don't just like push people away from elections because it's not part of their agenda. They even attack villagers. So there have been instances when villagers who even willingly come and vote, their fingers are cut, their thumbs are cut by the Naxalites. So that kind of fear is always there among villagers. And then they would, so the changing strategies of armed insurgencies, they will plant improvised explosive devices. They will just blast the entire stuff. They will lay ambushes and they will kill people. And multiple incidents did happen in that year also, before the election. So we had to tighten the security. One, at the same time, we had to make people comfortable with the fact that they would be safe. It's not just that we are telling them you would be safe and they would agree. It's very and the fear is very very deeply entrenched in the villagers, and rightly so. So the basic strategy was, I started a new community policing initiative altogether. We named it Manva Puna Bijapur. Basically, it's a Gondi term. It means our new Bijapur. The basic thing was we will go to all the possible villages where we can possibly reach. We'll have an interaction with youth. We'll have an interaction with the women. We'll have an interaction with the villagers of all across age groups. They would have their complaints also. They will have their complaints from police also. They will have their complaints from security forces also, in addition to the administrative department. But we'll talk to them. We'll understand what possibly could be done to help them from multiple departments. Then we used to liaison with the other administrative departments, mostly through collector and forest offices. And it slowly started bringing change. And then eventually the other departments started coming with us for these meetings with the villagers and for these camps. We used to even do night camps so that we can have better understanding. We used to have cultural programs. We started doing educational and awareness tours for the kids and youth so that they understand. So somebody who has never been to, let's say, district headquarters of Bijapur, and Bijapur is a very small town, they have not even seen Bijapur. We started gathering these children. We used to arrange their visit to, like, district headquarters, to Jagdalpur, which is the range headquarters, then to Raipur, which is the state capital. And they would see, even in this tour, they would see that there is a road, there is a electricity line, people are talking on mobile phones. We used to take them to educational institutes, like what all facilities government is providing without any charge. In fact, the scholarships are provided to the children, sports academies there, multiple avenues, so that they get an exposure. So why do I vote? Why do I join democracy? I need to, it's not just that you just tell that on this date that the voting would be there and people would automatically come. No, they won't. That happens only in towns when people assume that it is a normal process. In these areas, we first need to tell why democracy is value addition to your life. What would you get? So to get that out of that fear cover and to enter into democracy is a big leap of faith. So that slowly we started slowly building on those things. Then special sessions used to be organized for women, children, and it it reaped effort. Ultimately, it was an effort of more than a year. But when it came to election time, we had the least number of incidents, least number of casualties, no attacks at all on the polling parties, which was a big thing in those pockets, because every election it was a regular affair that some polling party would be killed or attacked. some voter would be killed or attacked or kidnapped. So, but somehow we managed, and it feels good when I look back how it all turned out to be. It was a good experience.
Mm. And so you've also been conferred, one of the rarest honors for bravery in the Indian police, right? The first Bar Police Medal for gallantry for leading, successful missions. Um, and generally, people hear of these missions, and while they know that it is very dangerous and very difficult to function in those territories, there is a vague understanding of how and why. Is there something you can share with us from your experience of one of these missions that can give a glimpse into this, or is there a particular mission that stands out in your mind?
Yeah, surely. But during my additional SP ship, so basically all the missions that I took part were mostly during my additional SP ship in district Bijapur. So the thing is, because we plan a lot of operations and missions in the core areas. Core area basically means where the insurgency presence is very high, and it's not possible for other departments to go. So we plan out missions, we plan out operations in these pockets, so we send our parties. So I always had this thing that if I am sending somebody to risk their own lives, I should also be going into those parties, and if not all, at least some of them, and I should lead them in the most difficult ones. It's not easy for multiple reasons. First of all, on an average day we walk for around 25 to 30 kilometers in so the terrain is very tough. It's like totally hilly, like there would be multiple small and large hills, and you have to cover the hills. Secondly, we cannot use the tracks which are used by the villagers, because Naxalites usually deploy IEDs, improvised explosive devices, which are pressure. So you do not need anybody to sit and blast it. You just put your foot and you will be blasted away. We have lost so many people, more than thousands. We have lost in this battle to IEDs only. Then they also plant spikes. So spike basically is sharpened nails and bamboos, which are like covered in the. So basically they are like animal traps. So which people earlier used to do for like hunting animals. So they will put and then cover this in the ground, and if somebody falls over it, then the entire feet would be dug into the nails. So these kind of things are there, and then because it's a hilly terrain, undulated area, it's very easy to lay trap and ambush. Ambush basically is somebody is hiding from an area, from a vantage point, and they attack you while you're moving. So these threats are always there, and since there is no network connectivity, there is no medical aid available. Even that we have nowadays chopper evacuation, but that helicopter evacuation is also not always possible, because it's not possible to land helicopter everywhere because of the terrain, and night landing is very difficult. So once we go, we are on our own. Whatever happens to us, we only have to deal with it till the time we come back. So I used to go on operations for 6 7 days, and it it was a good thrilling experience, but it used to be also very difficult. And the reason I used to go and why it added value also, because how I would understand what my so team is going through when they go to operations and they go to missions. What do they require? How can I make it easier? How is the interaction with the villagers happening? What more can we derive from the same missions and operations, which can add value to the entire governance? And so these were the challenges. So like in one operation we actually stayed in we planned it for 4 days. I extended for 2 more days because there was an intel that there is a movement of some 15-20 armed Naxalites just 5 kilometers southeast of our location. So I extended the operation. We had an exchange of fire. We managed to arrest 3 people. They are still in jail. They are sentenced now. So it feels good to a certain extent, but it was very dangerous. That there is no doubt about it, and that was a reason also that I wanted to go, because if I can put somebody else's life in danger, I should also be the first one as a leader or a commander to be there for my team.
And there have been, not just this kind of, in left-wing extremism related activities, but there have been certain other, you know, uh, very good achievements as well. I mean, the things that you've done is also, it sort of translates into the other kind of activities also. For example, you were awarded the shield by State Cabinet Minister for crime and incident free conduct of the 20-day Rajim Kumbh Mela, which is visited by more than 2.5 million people, right? So that is a
Yeah.
different challenge altogether. I mean, with so many people, one side you have the left-wing extremism part where the numbers are few, but the dangers are high. But on this side is that there is sea of people, and how do you make sure that it goes out, without any incident happening? So what are the differences there? How do you manage something like this?
Yeah, so very, very different domains both of these are. So when we talk about Rajim Kumbh Mela, it was a 20-day Mela, uh, where like it's a like it's a mini Kumbh of Chhattisgarh. It's not as big as UP obviously, but it's quite big in terms of the population ratio proportion of Chhattisgarh. So and it was a usual thing that somebody would be pickpocketed, somebody would be like there would be theft, there would be robberies, there would be molestation, even people would drink and kill in certain cases. Road accidents would be rampant because traffic movement would be very difficult. So before this 20 day of Mela, there was a preparation of more than 30 days which went into it so that it went smooth. So we use technology, we use CCTV camera, CCTV deployment was extensive, and not just deployment, regular monitoring teams were there so that if any suspicious activity is there, then it should be monitored. Traffic specifically was given a very high preference and priority because it was a major bottleneck for the entire system also, because where the this Mela sport was there, it was a tri-junction of three districts and three big towns. So even if there is a bottleneck in one area, then other two areas will also get choked, and it would be choked for more than 2 3 hours. In fact, during the Mela, there was a big weather storm also. A lot of things got damaged, but still, we had a disaster response team also in place beforehand only. So there was no casualty. Thankfully, we managed to rescue everybody in time. So these things all were there, which were like part of the preparation beforehand. And otherwise, there were dedicated like patrolling teams. There were dedicated women teams, which were there for prevention of these kind of like thefts, robberies, or molestations, and ready reporting also. So even in case something happens, if ready reporting happens, then the action can be taken very promptly. Otherwise, things get diluted over a period of time. Also, there were multiple meetings with stakeholders. So generally, when these kind of events happen, it's not just the government which is involved, the local people, and it's a sentimental issue. When we talk about a program, religious programs usually have very very high sentimental value. People get offended for very very small things, very basic things. So it's always better. It is tedious, but it is always better to keep everybody on board so that tomorrow there can be a free flow or free exchange of communication and information. So that 30 days prior to that 20-day Mela were very, very tedious, very, very like intensive, but ultimately it paid the price. Uh, as compared to Naxal areas are like very, very uncertain. So you just, and then there is a fear of life. In a normal area, there might be law and order, there might be a loss of property, like it can be a robbery, it can be a theft. Loss of life chances are very, very less. While here, it's altogether a different ball game. Loss of property is not that like, because people anyway do not have much assets there. It's about the loss of life. It's about the loss of security. It's about the loss of peace of mind. So the challenges are very, very different, and also but the basic thing remains same. If we look at both the scenarios, it's about how we build dialogue with the people. If we can win the trust, and if we can establish a dialogue with the people, with the local communities, then both these things can happen very, very smoothly and in a much better sense. So I think with all the differences, the community interaction is a like major common thing in both the things.
And generally people have this perception that the uniformed forces like the police, the armed forces, paramilitary forces, and also the opportunity to deploy creative solutions and to be creative is not present as much. And it's the impression is mostly like there is a lot of hard force, brute force available for getting meeting your objectives. But you have in your course of activity, you have utilized a lot of creative solutions to get things done. For example, creating short movies and local dialect songs and Android games to raise awareness. So those are an interesting aspect which I think people would want to know a little bit more about. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Surely. So, and I think this is where I have always been thankful to IIM. So that IIM Ahmedabad, it gave a lot of perspective of how like marketing, branding, understanding behavior of people. So if we take the like government as a service provider and everybody as consumer, then we start understanding how do we communicate better with people, what we want to do, how we want to do it. It's like, so this movies. So when I come to a place like Chhattisgarh and Bastar, where most of the people just know that it's an insurgency prone area, and people would generally avoid coming to these pockets of the country. I come here because I was posted here, but then I see that there is not just insurgency. This place is vibrant in culture, vibrant in heritage. There is so much scenic beauty. There is so much environmental diversity, eco diversity is there. It's endowed with immense so how do I tell without how to communicate that? And secondly, I think it applies to the tribal areas. Tribals, even though they are they are amazingly strength is beyond platform willing this internally space and multiple languages, not just languages, also but if you go to an area which is after every few 20-30 kilometers. So how do we interact with people? How do we communicate what the government wants to do? How do we like bridge that gap? So this is where this entire thing of like videos, songs, and multiple other activities that we started doing, documentaries. This is where this entire idea came about, and yeah, pretty much that.
So this is all pretty intense, right? So what do you do to unwind? What are the things that you enjoy outside of work?
So before I was in network zone, so that time, so it was more like fitness was the one thing, and reading books. Reading books again is one thing which has been with me since the preparation of CAT days. So one good hobby that I have had since those times. And other thing, primarily because of my training, is like focusing on fitness. Now that I'm in network area, sometimes I do unwind through Netflix and Prime because it is a luxury in these areas. So we have most of the days we do not have a very good internet connectivity here. So whenever there is, we do try to like unwind over those things, the good old days.
Well, Mohit, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and congratulations again on the award. We
Thank you so
usually
much.
do this in person on campus, but unfortunately this year, obviously, all that is not possible. So we would love for you to be back on campus sometime and interact with the students and get to meet you as well. Yeah. So whenever it's possible, do let me know, and we'll arrange a session for you here with the students. Yeah, and we would love to have you back on campus sometime.
Surely,
Yeah.
I would love that too.
Yeah. Thanks, Mohit. So this is where we end the interview. We will cut this part, the remaining part out of the one that we post on the YouTube. Um,
Yeah.
While you were talking, Mohit, there were brief sections, maybe about 1 or 2 minutes, where the connectivity was low, so we missed out some of the portions, right? But that is not much.
Okay.
That was about 1 or 2 minutes, so we'll cut that part out. Yeah, we'll edit it and accordingly we'll put it up on
Okay.
the YouTube thing.
Okay.
So it's also good to hear about these things, because I was also working on this for a few years initially. I was on this
Okay.
MRCH project on this internal security, crime and criminal tracking network and systems, right?
CCTNS. Yeah.
CCTNS, yeah. So I was working with, I was posted in Orissa, so I was working with Naveen Patnaik and the Chief Secretary and DGP. So I was working with those people
Okay.
on creating what the policy should be like, how do we
Uh-huh.
take it forward and stuff. So absolutely connect with what you are saying. This is a really, I mean, interesting topic that's very close to my heart as well. So so whenever we get to meet, I guess we'll talk more about it. But thanks for
For
being
sure.
here, and thanks for talking to us. And once we put it up on the YouTube channel, I'll let you know. Yeah.
Surely.
All right. Thanks, Mohit. Take care.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Yeah.
Bye bye.